This man's Football Morning in America column has been just as must-read as his longtime column and his previous spots. He is part of NBC Sports for quite some time, and he helps kick off our week before opening kickoff coverage of the 21 NFL season, none other than Peter King. How are you, Peter?
Hey, Rich. I'm great. How about you?
I'm trying to make heads or tails of the Charles Robinson report and why Miami would do such a thing. And what's going on? Is there any much there 10 days before the season begins and 13 days before the Dolphins have to go up into Gillette to start the season that Deshaun Watson and the Dolphins are doing a dance with each other right now?
I wish I knew, Rich, but I don't know. I wish I was inside this story right now, but I'm not, and give credit to Charles Robinson for some good information over the weekend. It's very, very hard for me to believe that the Dolphins would do this, or quite frankly, right now, that Houston would do this. I mean, Houston clearly wants to be rid of Deshaun Watson, understandably, but how are you going to get your best deal right now when deep down inside, I don't know how anybody could know what the fate of Deshaun Watson is, whether, what's going to happen to him legally. I mean, is it possible that he could spend time in prison? I don't think so, but is that possible? Just what exactly is possible? No one knows. And so therefore, I find it really kind of hard to believe that a team right now would trade for him not knowing what exactly he's going to be able to do for you this year and how much this legal situation is going to chase him down the road into the future.
It's just it would shock me, to be honest with you, Peter, and it's already shocking me that there's a possibility of it happening, because Charles Robinson, as you know, has got he's got T's crossed and I's dotted, and so I just don't understand why. Like, what would be the point that you might be able to acquire Deshaun Watson on the cheap at the expense of kind of upsetting the 21
but
apple cart?
That's why it's a dumb idea for Houston to do it right now. I mean, why would you make this trade before? I mean, you just have to take the crap that comes with employing Deshaun Watson right now. If you're the Houston Texans, you're not winning anything this year anyway. You basically have the roster of an expansion team. So, if you're not winning anything this year, then what sense does it make to take a deal that would be below market? Nick Caserio would, if he takes 50% of Watson's value when Watson is free and clear of everything, he ought to be fired. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to rush into this. What the Texans should do is basically say, look, we're going to pay your salary this year. Just stay away. And we're going to pay your salary, stay away, and we're going to trade you next off season. And it's incumbent on you to get your legal situation taken care of so we can trade you next off season.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you were with Baltimore when they found out about Dobbins? Is that where you've been the last 24
I wasn't
hours?
with Baltimore. No, I was there last week for a day. And
okay.
Spent time with Dobbins. I had never met him before, and he's really a delightful guy who was so incredibly excited about about playing and about being in the nirvana for an NFL running back, which is Baltimore. I mean, they've averaged, they've run it 56% of the time over the last 2 years. Nobody does that anymore. And he knew that he was in a solid gold place. And yet, on the ninth play of the game on Saturday night, that meant absolutely nothing. His season went down the tubes. So, I wrote about that today. I really ended up feeling for this guy so much after meeting him and talking to him, and having a big role on a great team. He said for him is the same for most other people as breathing. That's like all he wants to do in the world. So I spent yesterday really kind of bummed out for J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I mean, what a horrible turn of events for him, and obviously the Ravens right on the eve of the season. And, Cam Akers didn't get hurt in a preseason game, but that's another significant young running back entering year 2 that would have been in a perfect position as well. But what's the general sense now that this preseason is in the books, that the concept of the 3 games, is there any thought about curtailing it off of some of these injuries that we have seen? I mean, it happens all the time. If we kind of forgot.
It happens all the time, Rich. But I mean, look, could there / should there be 2 preseason games? Probably. Every time I hear a coach say, "Oh, we need to evaluate the players. We need the 3 games." You don't play half your roster. 2 games should be plenty of time to evaluate the 68th guy on your roster. Plus, you're going to practice with 1 or 2 other teams. Most teams do that now. So it's silly to think that these games are needed. But the fact is, there are going to be some teams, some very, very good teams. The Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots. They play their guys in the preseason. And, as much as part of me wants to say, man, you got to put these guys in bubble wrap till opening day, I'm not saying there's just as much danger in that. But, in so many cases, the New York Giants, you need to see Daniel Jones try to figure out how he's going to be able to play with this awful offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get into the first game of the year against Von Miller and Bradley Chubb in the Meadowlands and say, oh, how are we going to figure this out now? And so, I do think there's some value, especially for up-and-coming growing teams, to play their guys in these games.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Based on who you saw and what you've seen now that training camp and preseason is in the books, and now we're just going to go back to our separate 32 corners and come out and start fighting. Which teams were you impressed by the most thinking that either they're being slept on or they're going to be the biggest problem that we're not talking about right now?
So I saw 20 teams, Rich, and so, it's silly. I wasn't in Cleveland, for instance. There's a lot of teams I didn't see that are going to be pretty good. I wasn't in New England. But I'll tell you, there's 3 teams that are a little bit different than I thought they would be.
Okay.
Like the Chargers, in my opinion, have a chance to be a very, very dangerous team. They're obviously dangerous offensively. And if James and Bosa stay healthy, relatively speaking, which is a huge if, particularly with James based on recent history, I think that they could end up giving the Chiefs a run for their money. I know that sounds outrageous, but I really like the Chargers. The Steelers were better than I thought they would be. Ben Roethlisberger looks like he's lost, I don't know, make a guess, 15 pounds? I don't know. But he looked a little bit more life and light on his feet. He just looked more athletic to me when I saw them. And that Pat Freiermuth, the tight end, he's got Odell hands. He really, I think, might be a really big, good impact player. But obviously, so much of that is going to depend on whether an all-new offensive line can mesh and play well early. And the other team I saw that is, speaking of offensive lines, to think that that Kansas City is going to play a guy at left tackle who's never played it in the NFL, Orlando Brown, a great left guard in Joe Thuney, and then guys at center, right guard, and right tackle who have never played in an NFL game before. And that's the team you enter the season with. I think all is great when you got Patrick Mahomes as your guy, And those young guys had a really, really good training camp. Trey Smith, the right guard from Tennessee, might have been a first or second round pick if he didn't have all of the health problems he had in college. But those are the three teams that I was really kind of fascinated by it. And I don't mention Tampa because I think everybody believes Tampa is going to be really, really good again. And that with Tom Brady being healthy and knowing everything about the offense and already having had a great year last year, they're going to be pretty good too.
Well, let's get to Tampa then. Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. You've been there and done that quite a bit in your career, Peter. You're in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but when you sat down with Brady for your previous column, I imagine it's the first time you've ever sat down with a 44-year-old defending Super Bowl MVP off of his 7th championship. Well, how did you find Brady when you chatted with him, Peter?
Effusive, excited, really, really happy, content with his life, happy he did what he did. It's amazing, Rich, to think that he's 1,593 days older than any other football player in the NFL.
That's a great number.
It's just absurd. It's absurd. Because not only does he look young, he acts young. And the day that I saw him, he was playing mentor/teacher to a 4th-round Smurf from North Texas State, a receiver named Jalen Darden. And he's really getting into that role. Last year was O.J. Howard, and the other guys this year it's Jalen Darden. He has been really he's really come alive with a 3rd down back like he had with James White in New England. Gio Bernard this year, and I told a buddy of mine who's a fantasy football player, I said, look, I'm not altogether familiar with what really matters in fantasy football, but I do think that this guy, Gio Bernard, is going to score a lot of touchdowns and is going to have a chance to be a really good red zone player. And again, I don't know what all that means, but he's going to touch it a lot. He's going to be really good. And, if anything, and you don't know what's going to happen with injuries, but if anything, that offense is better. And you know what, Rich? It was funny. An hour after the Super Bowl, I was talking to Bruce Arians. I was in the same building as he was, but we were talking on the phone because you couldn't meet in person then. And he said to me, he said, it sounds crazy, but the sad thing is we don't have more games to play. This is the best we've been all year on both sides of the ball, and it's just a shame the season is ending. And so this was not a team that was weary at the end of the year. This is a team that was excited at the end of the year. So they've got a lot of different things going for them this year in Tampa.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Your best guess on who the starter is for New England and San Francisco? Those appear to be the only outstanding quarterback issues as we're talking 10 days before the season. Peter?
And both of them, well, I would be a little bit more confident in Jimmy Garoppolo because, all along, Trey Lance was going to have to be an A quarterback and Garoppolo a C+ through training camp for Lance to win the job. And I do not think that has been the case. In New England, I thought that, I think that Mac Jones is at a better training camp. There's no doubt he's at a better training camp. But has he knocked the champion out in the eyes of Bill Belichick? Not really. If I had to guess, and that's all it would be, I'd guess that Cam Newton will start in New England.
Because, it's just, again, it's so fascinating to me that the Brady-Belichick relationship that lasted 20 years, which is something we'll never see again.
Right.
Reed and Mahomes have to play, 16 more seasons? Like Mahomes and Reed is going to have Reed as his coach for 16 more seasons to match it. It's insane. Right. It's insane that here we are 1 year after the separation. Brady is the 44-year-old defending Super Bowl champ, and Belichick's got a first-round quarterback competition that's going on in training camp. And with a revamped roster, Sony Michel now on the Rams, the Patriots just fascinate me right now, Peter, and I think they have a chance to be really good this year. I'm wondering what you think.
I think so, too. You know what I noticed? I watched their game last night, Rich. You know what you notice, and even though the Giants' offensive line stinks, you know what you notice about that defense in New England? They've got a lot of different weapons on that front seven that I think are really going to surprise people. You think of your Michigan Wolverine, Josh Uche,
right,
who to me was the most impressive guy in the game yesterday for New England on defense. And you think about the different kinds of pressure that they can get. Nobody knows who Dietrich Wise is, but he's good. Josh Uche is good. Kyle Van Noy was really good when he was in New England the last time, and I still think he is. I think New England is a really fascinating team if they get even efficient play at the quarterback position. Last year, they got lousy play at the quarterback position. So, I mean, Rich, you and I probably both feel like it's only a matter of time before Mac Jones plays.
Right.
But whatever happens, I agree with you. I think they're going to be tough. All along, I think didn't you go into the off season thinking, well, now it's Buffalo, Miami, New England? I would not put New England behind Miami now. I'm not sure I'd put them far ahead of Miami, but I'd probably put New England just a nudge above Miami right now in that division.
Well, I certainly would if Miami goes and acquires a guy who could be put on the commissioner's exempt list at any point in time. That's why I guess to bring this conversation full circle, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense until every last chip has fallen where it's going to rest, period, before you make a trade like the one.
I just can't see it. Now, look, it may be that if the Dolphins, it's a very, very progressive organization, and they don't mind taking risks. If the Dolphins feel like absolutely unequivocally, even if it isn't until opening day 2023, if they know that they want Deshaun Watson to be their guy and they can get him for a slight bargain right now, and they've got to dump Tua, which I would assume, obviously, he'd be involved in any trade like that. Maybe they would do it. I do not see. I think it is. I'm not going to call it irresponsible, but I don't think it's smart to make a trade of that magnitude without knowing all of the conditions involved. And you can't know the conditions involved right now.
Peter, thanks for the call. I look forward to chatting with you so much more throughout another fascinating NFL season that we're so fortunate to have a front row seat on with NBC and Peacock and all that. So thanks, Peter. Really appreciate it.
Okay, Rich. Have a great week.
Let's chat soon at Peter_King right here. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.